Good afternoon, everyone. It's wonderful to have all of you with us here today. I see some familiar names from our previous webinars, as well as many new participants joining us for the first time. So thank you for spending part of your afternoon with us. My name is Det Arwego. I'm the Managing Director of Assessment Analytics, and it's really my pleasure to welcome you to today's webinar entitled Sustainable Succession. So while you're getting ready, I just want to inform all of you that today's session is actually part of our series of 20 complimentary webinars to celebrate our 20th year here in AAI. In fact, this is already our seventh webinar for the year, and we truly appreciate the continued support and participation from all of you. Also, please note that today's session is being recorded and it may be shared in our social media channels. So that would be in YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. So Ray will also be posting our social media links in the chat. Please feel free to follow us there. All right. So thank you, Kath, and thank you, everyone. And once again, welcome to today's session. Now, as organizations continue to grow and adapt to change, succession planning has become increasingly important, not only for leadership continuity, but also for building long term organizational sustainability. Today's session will explore how organizations can approach succession planning more strategically and sustainably while balancing business needs, leadership readiness, and organizational culture. We are especially grateful and honored to have with us today one of our valued clients, Arthaland, the only real estate developer in the Philippines with a portfolio that is 100% certified sustainable, recognized both locally and globally for its strong commitment to sustainability, wellness, quality, and innovation. Through the Net Zero Carbon Buildings commitment of the World Green Building Council, Arthaland has pledged to decarbonize 100% of its portfolio by 2030. Really very impressive, making it the first real estate developer in Asia and the first signatory from the Philippines to make this commitment. It is also now my pleasure to introduce our speaker for today, Ms. Maria Elena or Leng Fajardo. Leng is the current head of human resources of the Arthaland Group. She is a seasoned HR leader with extensive experience in human resources and organizational development, and is known for her strong leadership in building people-centered strategies that support organizational growth and long-term sustainability. She has been instrumental in driving initiatives that strengthen leadership development and enhance organizational effectiveness across complex business environments. Today, she will be generously sharing her valuable insights on sustainable succession planning and how organizations can effectively build and strengthen their succession strategies for the future. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Miss Leng Fajardo.
Okay, what an introduction. Thank you, Miss Beth. Very proud employee or be a very proud member of the Arthalan team. Thank you. Thank you for having us today. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Okay. I hope everybody can see the screen.
Yes, we can.
All right. I can see diverse participants from the room. Thank you. There are people from school, from different organizations, and I can see names from Arthalan. Thank you for the support. So before we start, can we do a quick check-in lang or question that you can answer using the chat box? What sustainable practices do you follow in your personal life at home or in the office? We just want to see, I know maybe there are people out there who's been practicing it already, and that's very important because I think not just Arthaland, but the world needs it. Our planet needs it. So hopefully we can see using tumblers instead of single-use cups. Thank you very much. They ban the use of single-use cups, paperless, and good tracking of carbon footprint. Thank you, Ms. Trisha. Carpooling to reduce GHG emission. Thank you, Raya. Very technical. We need that now, especially during this fuel crisis. So thank you for sharing that. Personally, baka ako na lang po yung hindi gumagamit ng Lazada and Shopee because I find the bubble wrap and the boxes too complicated and too much waste. So there, I shop personally and don't shop using a online platform. There you go. So thank you. Thank you for the answers. Use of sensor lights or LED, eco bag instead of plastic bags. Thank you, Ivy, Miss Leah. Bringing own eco bag for groceries, use of public transport. Thank you guys. You are doing something for the planet. So, okay. I want everyone to think of a movie, TV show, or even a K drama where someone had to take over a role unexpectedly. Maybe Simba becoming king in The Lion King. Wednesday Adams taking charge. Can you imagine that? Captain America passing the shield. Or maybe your favorite teleserye or Korean drama where the next heir suddenly appears. And here's the question for you guys. You don't have to answer now or maybe just think about it. Do you think they were actually ready for the role? Or were they just surviving with confidence? So phones have backups, cloud storage has backups, even basketball teams have bench players ready to step in anytime. But somehow, many organizations still panic when a key leader leaves. So that's why succession planning matters because strong organizations don't just build leaders, they build the next leaders too. So it's really making sure the next person isn't just swinging it, but is truly prepared to lead when that moment comes. So for today, I will try to share succession planning that we are doing here in Arthaland. And at the same time, my learnings from my previous mentors in human resource. And hopefully, you can have great key takeaways that you can also implement and apply in your respective organization. Okay. So imagine this, your top leader suddenly says, I'm resigning, I'm retiring, or worse, I want to stay in Siargao and I want to become a travel blogger. Instant chaos, right? Everyone's in meetings, people are pretending not to panic, and suddenly the question becomes, okay, who's next? Organizations spend so much time planning budgets, projects, and strategies, but sometimes we forget to plan for the people who will actually lead those strategies in the future. So, succession planning is basically the org version of who understood the assignment. Okay? So, it's about making sure that the next generation of leaders who are ready to step up, not someday, but when the moment comes, are ready to actually take on. So, can I see a raise of hands or maybe comments uh, in the comment section or in the chat box? When you hear the word succession planning, what comes to mind? Do you observe and prioritize succession planning in your organization? Can I see the chat box? I hope it's there. Okay. Development programs. Cool. Thank you, Miss Olga. Okay. Next, leaders. Yeah, thank you. Next, pool of future leaders, leadership, selection and development, identification of critical roles, preparation. That's very much accurate. And I'm happy that people in the room are quite familiar, no? So let's define it. Let's define it. First, the objectives. After this, you will learn about different concepts related to succession planning. Even if you're not from human resource, we'll make it very chewable and very simple. And for human resource in the room, we will develop a customized process specifically for your organization requirement. I hope it will help. And of course, you can use the model as guide in developing your succession planning template. That's the key takeaway. So I hope after this session, you can go to your presidents, to your business leaders that maybe this template will work, and maybe that's, the start of your advancement planning program or succession planning program. Okay, so as defined by Australian HR Institute, it's a process where critical positions are targeted and staff are prepared to qualify for these positions. It's also a process where individuals are identified or developed to potentially fill senior leadership and management positions or critical positions as other business critical positions as well. So there are four major processes. You have to identify the talents, assess the talent, develop successors, and transition and review. So this is the staple definition and the process in succession development planning. So what's the overall goal? Studies have shown, and through experience, we've seen that we want to ensure business continuity of people resources. We don't want to have a gap just in case something happens to the incumbent. We want to mitigate against potential critical business operational gaps. And of course, we want to give career pathways for existing talent within the organization. So this is very important now, especially we have a younger workforce right now. They want to know what's the plan for them. They want to know how they're going to grow in the organization. So it's very important as early as their 6 month or their regularization period to visualize to them what's the plan of the organization to their career, how they're gonna grow, and how they're gonna the organization will impact their growth. So there are many different succession strategies being used by the different organization. First, they pool talents. I think for conglomerates and big companies, they really pool talents and resources to be able to identify their succession plan. In some companies like Arthaland, we develop talents and we start as early as a specialist role up to the managerial role to see the career trajectory and career advancement program of that talent. Some companies, they pirate if there's no one available within their organization. Some organization also borrow, meaning they hire short-term consultants until that consultants transfer the knowledge, the skills to their identified understudy. Some organizations, they're very generous and it's part of their budget to overhire so that they can guarantee continuity. And others also rehire previous talents or good talents who have been with their company previously, left, and then rehire back to the organization. Now, we will always hear this when you're talking about succession planning. What is a mission critical position? No? A critical position is one that if it's left vacant, it would have a very significant impact on the organization's ability to conduct normal business. So, for example, in real estate, the mission critical position would be our project directors, our design and planning, business development, even project development. Actually, almost all functions at the C level, at the Mancom level, and the technical functions as well in our operations. Because really, in real estate, they are the ones who are executing the projects. And some positions may be C-suite, managerial, technical, or support in nature. So how do we determine what's the numerical or percentages or the quantitative measure? When we say mission critical position, some human resource practitioner, they just define it together with their business partners and together with their leaders. But we are suggesting another methodology, which are this criteria, no? So the higher the number, it means it's very critical. So we say showstopper. When a position is showstopper, it cannot be vacated longer than 6 months because it will have a very strong impact in how we deliver our value proposition. Next is the retirement status, of course, of the incumbent because it's important to prepare for the next leader or the next person who will occupy the role. And then there's so many positions in the market now that are difficult to find because of migration, because of the potential work arrangement. So you have to factor that in, the difficulty to find the position, the learning curve, transfer of knowledge, and also how to tailor fit the person in the position. Is it within 18 months, within 12 months, or average? So you have to also take that into consideration. And then, of course, the readiness of the successor. Ready within 3 to 5 years, ready within 2 to 3 years, up to ready now. Meaning now, if something happens to the incumbent, he just thought of leaving tomorrow. When she wakes up tomorrow, she decided, I want to live in Siargao and live a simple life and be at peace. So that's ready now. You have a person who will occupy that role the following day. Okay? So the next topic will be a little bit technical, but it's we're gonna give context on process, tools, and techniques in terms of succession planning. You can ask questions at the end, but we'll try my best to simplify some of the principles and concept. And let me know in the chat box if you have questions, and we'll take it on later. So, succession planning, process, tools, and techniques. First, we have five, no? Profile, performance, potential, evaluation, and preparation. So these are the factors. At the heart of it all, you also have to consider strategy alignment in your organization. When I say strategy alignment, it means that you have to ask these questions. Where are we going? The future direction of the organization in the next 3 to 5 years, or even 10 to 20 years. What talents do we need to get there? What are these positions? How many competency level of our leaders? And what would the organization structure look like in the next 3 to 5 or 10 to 15 years? Hence, in this particular process, you really have to partner with your president, with your decision makers and leaders to be able to discuss the growth or the alignment with your top management, to be able to discuss your manpower planning based on the growth of your business. All right. This is just a grounded example, like how many new project managers do you need each year in the next 5 years? Is it dovetail to every project launches, for example, in real estate or in fast-moving consumer goods? How many stores are you gonna expand in the next 3 to 5 years? Where will you find these talents, and what competencies do you need with your project managers? Are you going to factor in AI and some technology enablers? Do you have the budget provision for additional manpower? So the strategy alignment needs to happen, I think, during your strategic planning. It's not just the business growth and the financial growth of the company that you need to prepare, but definitely the resource, the most important resource, which are your people. Okay? So, assuming everything is okay and there's strategy alignment already, budget has been approved, what are the next steps? And these are the factors I mentioned a while ago. It's very important to see the profile of your talents or of your understudy. In human resource, we call it shortlisting. When you do shortlisting of talents, there's filter. What are your non-negotiable profile based on your values, based on the vision of the company, and based on your brand? And then the age. I put age here, not for purposes of inclusivity, but just for purposes of identifying, because the retirement age in the Philippines is 65 years old. So for instance, you want to pick a successor for certain roles, and of course, you don't want to pick someone who's going to be retiring also next year. These are just the principles. But here, age is not really a requirement. I just put it out here. We're very much inclusive, just for purposes of the retirement age in the Philippines. Tenure is a factor, but not necessarily all the time, because the assumption here in tenure is that the person is homegrown, and the best talents to develop are actually the homegrown, because they really notice no the growth. They're really there during the startup stage, during the development stage, and the maturity of the organization. So it's a factor, but not necessarily the only requirement. So I just put it out there. HR records are there because it's important also to see the internal profile of the individuals in terms of values and in terms of the culture. Is it aligned also to the organization? So that's the shortlisting. And I think internally, you have to partner with your business leaders and your people committee. Most often than not, it's the people committee and the top management we're actually shortlisting talents, and some companies do it every year during their performance evaluation period. Okay? So, Miss Leng, during the selection process, what is your gate one criteria? Okay? The gate one criteria definitely is something that is very obvious in the organization because definitely as a business, we are being guided by key results, KPIs, business outcomes. So performance. Performance is very important. When you talk about performance, it's the individual's level of success in one's current role. Now, some leaders and human resource practitioners determine their timeline. Is it a 12 months performance, 2 years performance, 3 years performance? Some leaders would always suggest it has to be 3 years because we want to see uniformity, we want to see consistency in the performance of that person, and we also want to see the character of that person, no? Before we shortlist that individual for succession as understudy. And then in performance, of course, we have quantitative, no? High performance, moderate performance, and low performance. I know different companies have different definition of what's a high, medium, low, but for our purposes this afternoon, high is considered consistently high or improved over time, while moderate is generally meets performance, and low is consistently low or declining over time. So I'm sure you're using 1 to 5 or 80%, 90%, 100%. This is just how I meant by high, moderate, and low. And later on, we will see the numbers. So in the next slide, I think most business leaders, because the language of business is always numbers, we actually express the numerical presentation of high or representation of high. High in this language is 101% and up. And in the context of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, high performance is 4 and 5. As my boss will always tell me, 5 is walking on water. So it's like Jesus, and you achieve already perfection. So that person deserves to be in heaven and not here in on earth. So that's 4 and 5. High, 101% and up. Moderate is in the context of 80% to 100%. Although in some competitive companies, moderate is actually 90% to 100%, or it's the three in other companies. Low is 79% and below. So we're just expressing it in numbers. You may have different numerical value, or you may have different measures, but for our purposes, we're just expressing this as high, moderate, and low. And then I provided an example, year one, year two, year three. These are examples of performance. So I just put numerical um, presentation in terms of numbers. Then, in the context of 1 to 5, it's 5/5. Moderate is 3/5 or 4/5 in some companies. And then low is 2/5 or 1/5. The 2/5 sometimes, they are the ones who are subject of our performance improvement plan. But in Arthaland, we call it performance development plan because the goal is not to ease out the person, but the goal is really to develop the person. So it's very aspirational that you want to give a chance to that person. So I just put it here also in a year one, year two, year three type of presentation. So, performance summary, when you say high performance, it's really consistently high. And in figures, it's like 3 years all high. You have a one moderate year and 2 years which are still high, and then one moderate year, and then two highs and one moderate. No, that's the example. When you talk about high as well, this would be the percentage. So year one, year two, year three, it's all high in terms of performance, not anything else. Okay. High. Performance summary of the last 3 years. When you say moderate, it's generally meeting performance. Low performance, consistently low or declining over time. Now, some professors would say that if you have one low year in that context of 3 year span, it's considered automatically low. And later on, we will discuss, no? My take on that. And of course, two moderate years and one high, it's still moderate. And three moderate years, it's considered moderate as well. All right. So it's an example of a moderate performance, year one, year two, and year three. Performance summary of the last 3 years for the low performance. If you have at least one low rating for a year is automatic, except when there are extraordinary circumstances. You know that in the past 5 years, the person performed moderately or high, but then during that particular year, in a 3 year period, he performed low. According to some scholars, it's automatically a low rating when you look into a 3 year performance. So let's take a look. So you year one, it's low, year two moderate, year three moderate. They said it's really low when you evaluate. So we have a simple exercise here. Talent A, 2023 is low, 2024 is moderate, 2025 is high. What do you think is the performance summary of Talent A? So I'll go to chat box. Okay, I will answer later. How do you? Okay. Moderate, okay. Moderate, all right. Okay, we'll check later, and I sort of agree with you with that. Talent B is moderate, moderate, moderate. So obviously, okay. In talent A, someone says high. Talent A, someone says high as well. So talent B, moderate, moderate, moderate. It's moderate. Okay, thank you, Miss Doris. Okay, perfect. I think there's a price for this. We'll just send it later. Okay. Miss Cherry says moderate. Thank you for that. That's actually good. How about talent C? Moderate, high, high. How do you summarize the performance of talent C? Talent C is high. Very good. Okay. Thank you, Jerome. Thank you. Thank you. Mons, hi. Royce, hi. Miss Core, it's high. Okay, good. Great. Talent D. Talent D, high, moderate, high. Thank you again. So high, high. Okay. Okay, that's really good. Thank you. It warms my heart. It seems that you're listening, and I can see that some of the people here are not from human resource. So thank you. Talent E, high, high, moderate. Very good. Okay. Thank you, Leah. It's high. Thank you, Libby. Robbie, it's high. Cherry May, high. Very good. Thank you. Talent F, moderate, low, high. Talent F is moderate, low, and high. It's moderate. Frederick, thank you. France, thank you. Ivy, it's moderate. Okay. Cherry, Jennifer, moderate. Thank you very much, but with much improvement. Thank you very much. Talent G. How about Talent G? Moderate, moderate, high. F is same with A. Thank you for that observation. G almost high, G moderate, improving, improving, G moderate. Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much. And then lastly, talent age. High, low, high. High. Okay. Frederick says high. Rosemary says, okay, moderate. Talent age, moderate. Doris says moderate. Thank you. Thank you very much. So thank you. We will compile all the chat, and I think we will give a special prize to those who got the correct answer. We will see. Okay. Um, I actually highlighted the talent A and talent F, and also talent H. These are the answers given by some scholars and some HR practitioners and business leaders. Because the way you evaluate really is it's both quantitative, numerical, and at the same time, there's a qualitative part as well. Remember the principle, remember the rule. If there's one low in a 3 year span, it's already considered low. So that's why we follow if there's one low, it's low. But I highlighted because I said, how many percentage of low? Is it a 79% or a super low, low 50%? Because that's the only time you can say that this person badly performed if it's really a super low percentage of performance. Hence, I put here moderate talent age because you have to compute the percentage quantitatively. But there are also some factors in performance that is very qualitative. So it's not very limiting. It's not just numbers of high, moderate, and low. There are also other factors. Okay? Later on, we'll address some questions. I can see from the chat box that there are some questions. So moving forward in the interest of time, that's why potential is also very important. The potential will come into play because when you identify a talent or an understudy, performance is actually a thing of the past, if you all agree. In Arthaland, we evaluate people not just for what they did in the past, but also for what they can do in their current role and in the future role that can be potentially done by the individual. So potential is, we give premium in potential and in the organization. So what is potential? How do I measure na itong batang to ay may potential? That this person is ready to be the next leader or one level higher. So when you're evaluating potential, there are three factors: ability, commitment, and aspiration. I call it the ACA model. Ability is the functional and leadership abilities. Ito yung technical, how to lead people, how to strategically think, how to manage the teams and projects, and how to develop people, most importantly. So the likelihood of success in the next role can also be measured by the commitment of that person. How engaged is this person in the organization in his current role? How committed is this person in the organization? How aligned is the values of this individual in the current role? And definitely, the third one would be aspirations. Does he want to be a leader? Does he want this? Pangarap niya ba to? Or ibang gusto niya? Like, does he want, you're preparing something, you're making the platform for him and you're preparing the environment for your direct reports. But your direct report will approach you, I just want to be a vlogger and live abroad or in Siargao because I want to be free from all this corporate stress. I don't want to be like you, ma'am. So there are talents like that. Or my dream is just to become a Rockwell mom. Yoga in the morning, I'll pick up my kid from school and just shop in the afternoon. There are also people like that. So it's very important for us to be very much um, committed and to be very much aware of the dreams and aspirations of our direct reports because whether we like it or not, it will really play an important part. And I think assessment analytics has a lot of instruments and tools to be able to measure the likelihood of success in the next role in a very scientific manner. So that's the ACA model. So ability are this, as mentioned, leadership, how they manage, and also exhibit leadership competencies, technical ability, definitely, expertise in different fields, finance, IT, labor laws, marketing, and so on and so forth. So in the human resource practice, this is not an exclusive list. When we measure ability and when we say this is low, this is moderate and high, we also partner with our leaders and our business unit heads and the Mancom team. When you say low, these are the factors. Again, it's not exclusive, but most often than not, these are the behaviors or factors being exhibited by the talent. Yeah, cannot easily adjust, There are issues on people management, technically not competent in the role, not able to address issues or solve problems. There are limitations, etc. Moderate is the three. Moderate is really the performer, meaning you do what's written on your job description, no? Meets expectation, can improve further with coaching and mentoring. There are areas in functional expertise that needed to be mentored and coached on, maybe, but he's doing his job. She's doing her job. Hi, these are really people who easily adjust, have high self-awareness and open to feedback. They have technical capacity for the next level role and flexible in handling various roles even outside of his current department. Ika nga, ito yung mga batang pro meal na nasobrahan ng taurine, no? High performers. I'm not sure if you still know that commercial of pro meal, but I'm hoping you do. Okay, aspirations. No, aspiration. High potential would be very vocal about how he wants his actions and speaks for it, takes delegated tasks. These are the people who approach the lead or the immediate superior and say, Mom, I want to grow in this organization. Let me know what I can do to be able to achieve that growth and I'm willing to be developed. Yan. Ganyan yung mga conversations na I want you to develop me, give me feedback, what can I do more, etc. Moderate potential, there is some hesitation to take on more responsibilities, but is currently doing his job. Low potential, not interested at all, has other plans outside the organization, and doesn't want it, has other priorities. I'm just here, mom, 8 to 5, because I really want to have my life outside of corporate. So I'm just saving money, and later on, I want to pursue my interest. And I want to be extracted from the stresses of corporate life. Okay? Sometimes, no? Sometimes that's how they express it. Commitment, this is the engagement or commitment of the organization. So high potential individuals takes dedicated tasks for the team, doesn't mind working extra mile just to get things done. I read some memes in the social media space that says, "Huwag ka masyadong magaling sa work kasi bibigyan ka ng mas maraming work." Or hindi mo na lang gagalingan kasi ang dami pang work na ibibigay sa'yo. But I found that counterintuitive to growth because those tasks at first can be debilitating, but eventually this will help us in our professional and even personal growth, no? Kumbaga, the long-term impact to us would be there, no? Maybe we can just see it now. Moderate, likely to stay long-term, but may look for other opportunities eventually, given the, changing environment. Low potential, not interested, vocal that it's taking too much of his or her personal time, then maybe he will not take it. So, Miss Leng, question. Among the three attributes of potential, ability, engagement or commitment, or and aspiration, which one should have the most consideration? Which one should have the most consideration? Okay. Some HR practitioners say it's really the ability, and some business leaders also. Ability is the main differentiator, even if high on aspiration and commitment, if moderate or low ability, it will bring down potential. Aspiration, if moderate or low, can also bring down the potential one level lower. Again, this is not exclusive. Of course, there are other factors, but the assumption is that when you grow in your role and when you grow in the leadership role, whether it's vertical growth or horizontal growth, it's almost a staple that you have the ability, that you are really good in terms of the function. Otherwise, kahit gustong-gusto mong maging accountant, kahit gustong-gusto mong maging financial analyst or finance management, pero hindi ka talaga CPA at hindi kayo friends ng Excel or ng numbers, it won't happen for you. Maybe you're in the creative space, no? So ability is really very important. So another tool to be able to extract all this and to use this, combining performance and potential. This is not new. I think some companies are using this already. We have this 9 box grid, no? It's a well-known talent management tool in which employees are divided into 9 groups based on their performance and potential. So again, disclaimer, we're not boxing individuals. It's just that we have to identify their potential and performance in the context of the organization, no? So I think most of us are familiar with this 9 box grid. So the 9 box grid says lang that this is your performance, the x-axis, the y-axis would be your potential, and then there are really people in the organization that really belongs in one of these boxes. Okay? So we'll just go one by one, and I'll show you my version later. So this one, the underperformers in this box, you have to observe, or eventually you have to make them find their happiness elsewhere, no? Because it's unfair to keep them, it's unfair for them, and it's also unfair for the organization. There might be some opportunities waiting for them outside the organization, and maybe it's just a mismatch, no? For these people, very moderate performance and low potential, what you do is you have to observe and where are they effective, what kind of function can they shine, and maybe there are other functions in the organization that are really fit for them. And then this one, very high performance but very low potential. These are your trusted professionals. You need these people. I think the organization needs these people, but also find ways how to make them grow in the organization, whether it's a personal interest or just have intuitive conversation with them to be able to find their passion in the organization. This one is inconsistent performer. You have to observe them. What do they want? Maybe these are new hires, or maybe these are people who haven't really found their calling in the organization. So they have the potential, but not performing as expected. So observe and maybe resolve their dilemma together. No. This one's right here, the untapped talents, very high potential, super, but very low performance. So we call them in this context the untapped talents. What you do with them is to have an honest conversation. What do you really want to do? And find some ways on how to harness their potential within the organization. Okay, these are your core, these four. These are the talents that you really want to have, majority in the organization. You have the high potentials and medium performers. So what you do is you develop, you stretch them, you give them assignments, you find what's really best for them and how can you help them further. Your core players, you really need these people. This should be the majority of the organization. So they're very reliable team players. And what you do with them, you coach them, you mentor them, and see if they can move to any of these boxes. So you have here strong contributors in the organization. What you do is to stretch them further, develop them further, do some task force assignments for them, and really give them consistent feedback so that very high performance, but you know that you can extract more because they can still do more. Here, these are your star performers. Ideally should be the 20% of the organization. These are your exceptional talents. So what you do, you keep them interested, you protect these talents from poaching from outside, and you always find ways how to keep them in the organization. So there are many different interventions that we're doing for these talents, and it doesn't require only formal learning, but it requires more than that, if you know what I mean. Expose them to senior leadership, really make them understand the corporate soul of your organization. No? Walang budol, as in gusto mo talaga silang i-keep and you'll do everything to keep your star performers. So this is just my simple version. So it's easy to understand. Um, these are your mismatch. You really want to make them find their happiness elsewhere. and then your core players, your high potentials, the stars, and definitely high performers. So, second to the last topic, factors, evaluate. How do you evaluate these talents? So here in Arthaland, our vision is greater than building sustainable real estate. We extend the sustainable principles to our people. So we have this Life Built for Tomorrow program in the things that we do in terms of recruitment or the talent acquisition, talent development, and also talent retention. We always keep that in mind, the Life Built for Tomorrow, no? We extend the sustainability to our people, the most important resource of the organization. So, I provided as an example roadmap, a succession planning roadmap. This is very high level, but if you have some questions and want to know some details, I'm gonna share it to the group if needed. First, as discussed, you have to have the corporate strategy business alignment and identify and get the mission critical position approved by your management team. Next would be identify the requirements of the mission critical positions, list down the existing capabilities of the identified successor, and then perform gap analysis. So there are too many instruments in the market, but I think assessment analytics provide a very comprehensive assessment on potential and also performance. And definitely your human resource assessment would be very important here as well. The third one, which is important, would be based on gap analysis. What is a development plan that you need to do for that identified talent? So the model really is 70-20-10, but Artaland inserted a special 10% there, which is relationship building and gravitas. So 60% is on the job, 20% would be coaching and mentoring, 10% would be for us, it's gravitas. How do you build that? You cannot get that from formal learning. You cannot get that from just attending the onboarding program, but really it's building relationships with your external parties, with the senior leaders, with the senior members of your Mancom, because you get the culture from there. You'll get the corporate soul from there. And then gravitas is what is the brand of the organization? What brand do you want to carry with you when you represent the organization outside? So for us here, it involves travel outside the country to expose them to different best practices so that they can actually open their eyes and to see how could I, develop myself as a professional and also in my personal life. So that's what we call gravitas as simple as really involving them in fine dining experience, how to host dinners, what are the type of small talks or conversations you need to do to be able to represent Arthaland in the external gatherings or with external partners. And definitely formal learning it's not just classroom, but it involves online learning, certification, giving of materials and books and resources for us to always upskill and rescale the workforce. And then lastly, interim understudy development plan, you have to invest on the program and you have to do it intentionally. And then these are really the myth. The three and four would be the most important process in the succession planning roadmap. And fifth, you have to reassess, develop, action, and also keep on monitoring the process to make sure that you remain faithful to the objective of your succession planning. This is how it looks like, the succession chart. You just have to identify the talents, and when you identify them, you have to work with your business leaders and your top management as well. Lastly, you have to prepare the talent. So it's an example here, leadership program. It's really 70-20-10. The 10% is just our identical feature here in the company. So individual development plan. How do you prepare your successors for the new role? In this example, area sales head for an FMCG company, the potential understudy for regional sales head. So what do? You want to target the competency like business acumen and decision making. These are the activity or project that you're going to give, expand, and the product or store investment, for example. And then the 70% would be preparing the business case he needs to work on by himself with the consultation with the leaders. And then 20% will be coaching and mentoring, internal senior leaders or even external. 10% would be to attend a conference on supply chain management, for example, and finance, because as you grow with the role, you will be needing this acumen as well. Target date will be December 2027. Sponsor would be the region head. And what's the measure of success? Of course, the business case has been approved by the MANCOM, and then the percentage of achievement of KRA in the current role. So this is the part where I say thank you for spending your 3 p.m. with me and with us with Assessment Analytics. And always remember, we rise by lifting others. So thank you very much. I think there are many questions in the chat box, so we're hoping
you.
to answer one by one.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Okay.
Glenn. All
Okay.
right. So at this point, we're gonna go into the Q&A part, no? Uh,
Mm-hmm.
so yes, there are many questions. Everybody's very
Mm-hmm.
like engaged. So I'm gonna start reading them out one by one. So the first one: how do you mitigate the Peter principle, the promoting a performing employee to a level of incompetence?
Sorry, what do you mean by Peter Principle?
Well, it's when you promote an employee to a level where it becomes a little bit more overwhelming already for them.
Okay, okay. It's a little bit overwhelming. Again, you have to consider the aspiration and also commitment. Because if you, as an immediate superior, thinks that, okay, this person is really ready, isasaling ko na sa kanya ang bato or ang sisi o kung ano man, kaya na niya. But that's you. That's your assessment of the person or of the talent. But you also have to know the aspiration of that talent. It will always be overwhelming if the talent is not ready. And if he sees that being promoted would mean more work, being promoted would mean endless working hours, just like the stressful boss, I think it won't be very much attractive for that particular employee. So it's important to have that one on one and really know the aspirations. What's your plan? Do you want to stay where you are for X number of years and I can just mentor you and grow vertically? Or do you really want to explore other functions in the organization? So it's important to have that very honest conversation with our direct reports.
Very well said. So a perfect balance of ability, aspiration, and that commitment or engagement, no, really to kind of hone in on the high potential. So
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
the second question, I think this goes back to your activity earlier. What is the rationale for considering it low for one low instance? So if the person has one low, why would you consider that low?
Okay. Some of my HR mentor, I asked the same question from my HR mentors, and they said it means the person is not consistent. It means that parang it's a game of chance. Parang ano lang yan, natsambahan lang niya yung performance. They said that the standard should be there's no low performance in that span of 3 years because it doesn't really say that the person is consistent. That's the principle behind it. But then I always argue. I said, well, what if that person suffered a debilitating health condition in that particular year? Or maybe there was a pandemic, or maybe that person experienced a life changing event. That's why I said it's not really exclusive, but using the scholars principle, one low performance in a 3 year period is actually low. So that's the reason behind it. There is no consistency. Parang may tsamba ka ng isang taon, nakatsamba ka lang ng ilang isang taon and then mababa talaga yung performance mo. But I also do not agree to the principle, but maybe we should use not just 3 years, but 4 or 5 years to see consistency. Yeah.
Right. So it really is the measurement of that consistency or
Yeah.
improvement of
Yeah.
performance over time.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
The next question, which AI tools do you use for succession planning?
Oh gosh, Paolo, you're the best person to answer this. But as a client of Arthaland, I think we can be very transparent. We're using the not for succession only, but the OPQ. This is the personality quotient wherein you measure not just the quantitative factor, but also the qualitative factor if that person will succeed in the role, given all the stressors, given all the problems and challenges within the organization.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I really like that question mainly because
Mhm.
I know
Mhm.
exactly which one you would answer. No? And OPQ really is one of our flagship assessments that a lot of organizations use nowadays. I'm gonna summarize the last few questions to the how, where, and when. No, how do you
Sure.
how do you start succession planning? Number one, where do you start in that corporate ladder? Do you look in the supervisory side, or do you go up to the management side? And then when do you start to plan for a successor for a certain role?
Okay, how? Okay, how do you start? How do you start succession planning? It's very important that human resource is seen as a business partner in the organization because I think some companies, unfortunately, they see HR as a service provider still. But when you see human resource as a business partner, you will always have to discuss this in the boardroom with your leaders, with your president and business unit heads, that in that partnership, we do not create the succession plan. We just provide the process, but really the content will be coming from our leaders because they are really the one doing all the development plans, especially the 60% or the 70%, because it's on the job most of the time. So the
Right.
answer to how is to really collaborate and work with your business leaders. The answer to where do you which level in the organization, no? Is it just the mission critical position? Is it just the managers and above? My straight answer to that would be everybody. It's not really called succession, but there's this concept also called advancement planning. When you do advancement planning, the moment the staff or the new grad enters the door of your organization, you already have a 3-year plan for him or for her because you can see potential. So maybe you prioritize mission critical positions. Ito yung mga hindi kailangan mawala sa organization. You cannot outsource because they are really the brain and the heart of your company. Yeah, those are your priorities maybe. But it's really everybody, every role in the organization because succession is always attached to retention program. If
Mhm.
the company doesn't have any plans for our people, then definitely they will leave after 2 to 3 years or 3 to 4 years. It's important that we have that constant conversation with them on how we want them to grow and not just stay there forever and ever, amen, in their current role. So the when, for me, the answer to when was yesterday. We have to start something simple, work with your business leaders because it's my personal commitment, and I always say this to everybody that we have to invest on our young leaders right now. We do not necessarily label them and really highlight their flaws and highlight what they don't have. But I said, we have that obligation as leaders to develop the young minds, the young people, because they are the future of the workforce, literally. So let's raise them the way we want them to lead and always uplift them.
Awesome. Very
Okay.
well said, Ms. Lang.
Okay.
It's about the top of the hour now, so we're gonna start compiling the rest of the questions, and then we'll send them over to you. If you don't
Sure,
mind
sure,
answering.
sure. Of course, of
Thank
course.
you. Thank you so much, everybody, for spending the hour with us. Stay tuned to our social media pages for our next webinar, which we'll be posting very soon. Thank you so much. Have a good
Thank
afternoon.
you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Miss Carol, Miss D.
Thank you, Leng.
Paolo. Thank you,
Thank you
everyone.
so much, Leng.
Okay, thank you. Bye.